Hey guys, I'm Dhravya. I love building projects, and sometimes like the projects blow up, and I'm actually um, two of my projects have been acquired before, so I'm also like founder, and I love inspiring people and helping people get into coding.
Yeah, and I mean that's an amazing thing that you do with your platform on Twitter and everything. You inspire a lot of young people to get in, like you said, to coding and programming and startups, and I think that's a fantastic thing. We need a lot more kids like that out there, and just a little inspiration sometimes goes a long way. So let's go back to what really got you into technology. What made you want to start coding?
So basically, I was one of those children that got access to technology at a very young age. So I was something called an iPad kid, basically. And because I was an iPad kid, I also used to spend a lot of my time playing games, which yes, it took a lot of my time, but at the same time, it got me so much exposure to different websites, like sometimes cracking games on my iPad and stuff like that, that I became curious, and I really wanted to start learning how to make this technology make the games that I'm using right now, playing right now. So at the same time, I had like a little desktop computer at my house, and the desktop computers were actually pretty bad. Like low on RAM, low on everything, and I used to play GTA Vice City, and it used to keep hanging on me. So I was determined to make my own GTA Vice City, but of course that failed because I was just a child, and knew nothing about programming. But that gave me a little spark, a little hint of what I want to do later on. I want to build stuff, right? Then when COVID hit, I was spending all my time playing PUBG and Minecraft and some other games, almost 14 hours a day sometimes. And that led me to realize that maybe I should do something else. So by the end of the lockdown, I I basically convinced my parents to get me like a computer for myself, like a laptop. And on that laptop, the first day I got it, I spent like 16 hours straight doing a Python tutorial, and I slept, I woke up, and I made a product for my mom to help her with her business.
Wow, so that was like the first big project you worked or first project you worked on?
Yeah, so that was the first project I worked on. It was more or less a calculator with some values already put in for her. It was an extremely simple Python script, probably less than 50 lines of code, but the impact it had on me was a lot because I realized that I could make something. I could let my users, that was my mom at that time, use it, and that could have like real world implications directly in her life. And I felt like the magician who can just think of something and can make anything come to life. So after that, I worked on making a lot of these projects, but for myself, like making a file organizer, an image hosting website, stuff like that. And that's when I stumbled across like back into my gaming career. I was in a lot of Discord servers, so I stumbled back into these Discord servers where I found out about Discord bots, and yeah, I started making Discord bots too, and one of them got big.
Wow, so that was like your first big project then, right?
Yeah, that's right. So my big project was like a space bot, which was used by more than 200,000 people. Um, and the spaceboard story is a really cool story because at the time, while my parents did know that I code, my parents did not want to invest in, like, they were fully supportive of it, but I did not feel like asking them for money for hosting stuff at that time, because to me it was like, even for me, I always had that thought of I should be studying right now. I should probably not be coding right now. So I always had to figure out, how do I host this Discord bot? Where do I get the servers for free? And I was actually just hosting it on my own laptop, keeping it online 24/7, like plugged in and connected to the internet. And my database was literally a JSON file that I would read and write from. And my database backup was me dumping that JSON file into like a Discord channel, and then every 15 minutes, and then whenever it broke, I would recover that from there. Yeah, and that actually led me to stumble into this one guy, like in my pursuit of finding a good hosting service and making my Discord bot bigger and better. I stumbled across this guy who was running a hosting service. um and yeah, so that hosting service, like, that I joined it, and then I so that guy was like a single guy who was giving out server space for free for people who made Discord bots. Then I joined him, and we grew that business to like a lot of users.
Yeah, and that's Epic Host, right?
Yep, that's right. So Epic Host was huge for me, not because it made so much money, but because of how much I learned from it. Because through Epic Host, um, like, first of all, what happened in Epic Host was I got a ton of people that were also just beginners in programming, and I was able to give them a free server. And the best part about it is I was a user first of Epic Host, and then I climbed, I spoke to the guy who was running it, and I became a co-founder of it. And when I joined, it had about 100 users, and by the time we sold it, it was around like 5,000 users. So we expanded the servers. Earlier there was only one server in USA. We got one in Australia, India, Europe, and we actually forked the software to enable people to self sign up and get server space, so that we didn't have to provision it manually. And having 5,000 people that are reliant on you for free. Yes, we did not have any liability, we did not have any responsibility to keep them online, but just the fact that I was also running a Discord bot on the same server made like me, ensuring that no other person should suffer from any kind of downtime. So I had to learn a lot about how to manage, really advanced projects with a lot of users. And then we eventually also had to try to find out how to make money from this, which did not work out well for us. We could not make money from it, like, not much. We did have $5 VPSs and stuff, and we had some users using them, but it was not sustainable. We had no marketing strategy, nothing. And eventually we just sold it to some another platform called Cold Start Hosting. So that's where all our users are right now.
Okay, gotcha. And how did you go about that process of getting someone to buy you out?
Epichost was so big, and it was so known in like the Discord bot hosting community, like the small hosters, basically the small hosting websites. We were like one of the big small hosting websites. And Cool Start Hosting, for example, was in the same league as us, but they had much more funding, and they had actual, they did not have a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old running them. um yeah, I forgot to mention that Ryan, the founder of Epic Host, was actually 14 years old when he started it. Um and so they just reached out to us, and at the same time we also had like, I had my JEE coming up, and he had his GRE coming up, and we had to get back to studying for a while. So we just decided to let go of it, because we had for us, we had achieved what we wanted to achieve, that is empower people to make Discord bots, and we didn't have time to keep it running.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's great that you were able to sell it and make some money from that. And, I understand a lot of that's a big problem that a lot of young founders have is that I don't like the term real world because obviously this is all real world, but like other stuff comes up and, they have to put it to the side. But you were able to make a little money from that. And what did you put that money towards? Another project or what?
So From the acquisition, I earned a couple $1,000 from that entire Epic Host fiasco, and I just gave them. I just put them in my dad's bank account, and I did not use it towards my projects. Actually, so that's interesting, and because I did not even have my own bank account at the time, I was 16 years old. But at the same time, when I was building Epic Host, I was also working on like 3 or 4 other big projects with some of my friends. And one of them, I was actually building the other one alone. This one, like, it was because it was just a Twitter bot. Like, it was the simplest project I've ever made. A Twitter bot that anyone can tag under a post, and it would send a screenshot back to that person. It was as simple as that. But surprisingly, after talking a little bit about it on Twitter and some other platforms like dev.to, um, like it got a lot of followers. And I challenged myself if I can grow that Twitter bot to 1,000 followers in about a month. And at the time, that was like an unbelievable goal for me because I myself had 100 followers on my Twitter, and this is like last year around April. um but it worked out for me because by the end of first month I had almost 1,300 followers, and the entire process was documented on Twitter, my blogs, and everything. And it's an amazing story because I got users without having any kind of exposure. It was truly organic for me. And I also had a lot of people coming on over to my own Twitter account asking me how to make Twitter bots, stuff like that. And slowly, over over a few months, it started growing and growing and growing, and it got like 70,000 followers. um, and that was a crazy moment for me. I was like on the top of my world. I wanted to hit 100K as soon as possible. The president of Kenya followed it. Elon Musk liked some of my tweets. It was going great. But then Elon Musk bought Twitter and he monetized the API that we used because it's all like through Twitter. And at the time, we were getting around 10 requests. We were getting around 30 or 40 requests every minute, and at peak times 10 requests a second. And because it was an image generator, like we actually had to render images. um I actually had to render images. um I I had to optimize the servers like anything and run it for as cheap as possible. So that's what I did. Those servers, like I did pay like around $10 for them for a couple months, but then like some people on the internet helped me run it for free, which was amazing. um, so yeah, that was when I decided that I cannot pay $43,000 a month for the scale I am at because I would have to buy the enterprise plan to get the Twitter API access. And I decided to sell it, and then uh, I went on the internet and I found this Slack group called the Twitter Makers Group. And on that Slack group, there were a lot of companies who were already paying for the Twitter enterprise plan. And one of them was Hype Fury, and another was Tweet Hunter, Blackmagic.io, and all these like huge players, even Typefully. And um, I was able to convince some of them to be interested in my product to implement them in the tech into their own thing. And Hype Fury and Tweet Hunter both wanted to buy me, so I could negotiate my prices, and I sold it for like a very good amount as well.
That's great. And do you have any tips for people trying to grow projects or organically get word of mouth started or anything like that?
Yes, my only real tip would be to be genuine about what you do and to not go after users, but to go after bringing impact or like helping people in some way. For me, Epic Host succeeded because I genuinely wanted people to host their Discord bots. And Poet This succeeded because I genuinely wanted people to like simply have a very simple way of reposting tweets to like Instagram and stuff like that, because I was doing the same. And the second tip would be, um, build on platforms. And I mean, not don't always build on platforms, but to get started with, building bots can have a huge network effect, because it's not hard to get users when the platform itself wants you to get users, right? The platform itself is supporting a developer ecosystem. Like Discord has a great one. I think building Discord bots is probably the best thing you could do. And if you think of a good novel idea to for a Discord bot, you can definitely grow it. But the downside to it is it's hard to make money when you build on top of platforms. But it's like a great starter, I would say.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, I think those are some great tips. And a lot of our young founders and builders that listen to this podcast, I think, could get a lot from that. So, after you finished up that project and sold it, what was your next big thing you worked on?
So after I don't classify my things as a big thing or a small thing, because I never know what blows up. But after that, I worked with Yash, who is an amazing founder and like an amazing product builder, designer. He's like an all-in-one. And I was like on a spree with him. We built a website called disco.pics, which was very similar to Google Photos, but free and unlimited, because we were using Discord as a hosting site, and it is also open source. Um, then we built something called Cake Cutter, which was also which was like a developer tool with which you could do a bunch of stuff. Like you could do templating. Um, you could make like bootstrap templates that anyone can fetch at any point of time using just a command line interface. Um, we made a bunch of stuff, and one of them was actually lmfo.tech. And lmfo.tech was huge for me because it was my most complicated web project at the time. Like that's what introduced me to web development. And lumfao.tech was a social media but made for memes. And what I mean with that is, um, it was a discovery tool for memes on multiple platforms like Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Reddit. At the same time, it was a community where anyone could come, create memes on our editor, and then post it. And posting it would also cross post it to whatever platforms you have connected. And it was an amazing website for myself because I always like I do a lot of memeing. I love watching memes, stuff like that. And this community also, like I found a lot of people through lmfo.tech that became great friends and are still friends right now. Um, and because I had built like a good audience on Twitter of like 2,000 people, I could advertise it pretty well, and it got like 2,000 people sign up to the app, but daily users were very less, like less than 200 daily users. Um, and after the Twitter API change, I also had to shut that down.
Gotcha. All right. And do you have any tips for people trying to start a big Twitter account? Because it seems like that has been a great help for you with advertising projects.
Um, so for me, like I got a big Twitter account basically through my own Twitter project. Initially, like that was my initial boost to like 1,000 followers. But after that, it's just been me building and like helping people genuinely. Like, um, whenever someone DMs me, I make sure to respond to them and I make sure to help them in every way I can. I Whenever I learn something cool, I share about it. I talk about it. Um, I'm I'm very open about my failures. I'm very open about my the stuff that I do wrong, my thoughts, and I feel like having that person to person connection is what works. Um, and I have seen a lot of people using scheduling tools and like scheduling tweets and trying to be gurus, but the reality is there's more people who would who would like to follow a normal person who's like them, who's building, who's genuinely trying their best, than people who want gurus. And yeah, that worked for me.
Yeah. I think that's very true what you're saying, really about being genuine, right? Not scheduling tweets, not crafting them perfectly, just posting the stuff you know, are thinking, stuff you're testing out, projects you're working on. And a big thing you said was, you know, failures. Not everything's going to be a success, and letting people know that gives like a lot of credibility there. So that's awesome. I've been thinking, well, not thinking about it, I've been trying to get back to posting more on Twitter recently, because of you, and we also interviewed another guy that really same story. He got big, or got a lot of traffic to his projects from becoming bigger on Twitter. So yeah, I gotta really get back to doing that more. But all right. So then, what has been your favorite thing to work on so far? If you can't pick a favorite, what are some of your favorite things?
Some of my favorite things to work on have been either community based projects, definitely open source, all open source, community based projects, or developer tools. Um, Mainly because it makes me feel like in some way I'm helping more people. I'm bringing a change to the world in some way, and that's what inspires me, because I can see people using the stuff I make, um, especially with the developer tools and stuff. And I'm very, like, I'm a huge, fan of open conventions and open flow of ideas. That's one of the reasons that basically everything I make is open source. It may not be free, but it is always open source, and you can always ask me how it works, because that's the only way I think that like we can have actual technological innovation. Like every technology that we use today is built on a ton of other stuff that other people felt like giving to the world. And if only you do that, can you bring a real change, and can you have a real impact on the world.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a fantastic way of looking at it. Open source is a big thing, and like you were saying, I think it's a big reason for all the growth we've had and in technology, and being able to have projects open source, I think will really continue to lead to that innovation there. So now you're working on super memory AI, right? And how did you get into what gave you that idea to start super memory, and what really was that starting moment?
Okay, so it's a huge story, but basically I've been on the internet since around 7 or 8 years now, and I've always been a huge content consumer. And whenever I would consume some content, I remember I have like more than 20,000 saved things on Pinterest. And I know that's a lot of information that I want to know about, that I remember that I had seen like this pin where some, like, it was like learn Korean by just learning this one page. And I just want to find it, and there's no way for me to find it in like that huge pile of 20,000 pins, and I don't even know which account that is in. And I have like I have a lot of YouTube videos saved. I have a lot of Twitter bookmarks saved. I have a lot of people I know on LinkedIn, but there is no way for me to find them. And that really bugs me. That really annoys me, because even though for me the internet is completely open, there is no way for me to actually, um, like access all the information, all the knowledge that I've curated over so many years. And that's the reason I'm building super memory, an app where you not only get to save stuff on the app, so it acts like a bookmarking tool, but also it has AI powered search built in, it has AI chat built in. But not only that, you can use your saved stuff to write research papers. So there's a writing assistant, and have ideas and brainstorm, because there's an open canvas where you can, bring all your saved content based on your searches and stuff. So that is the plan, and we actually released it. We open sourced it around a month ago, and everyone everyone loves it already, even though the app doesn't really is not completely functional right now. It has 4,000 stars on GitHub, and I myself have 10,000 followers on Twitter, most of whom are not on GitHub. So it was also like my second organic growth phase, I felt, where a lot of people found out about super memory because it was on the GitHub trending page. And we're actually working on the version 2 of it right now, where we have like a complete redesign and everything going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fantastic idea, right? You have, I like you were saying, you have so many platforms that most people are on, right? You know, LinkedIn, Twitter, Discord, Pinterest, YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff. But sometimes you want a place where all that stuff can collect and you can save things and you can search across all of them and find what you were looking at. And that's a great thing. I mean, I think a big struggle of a lot of people is, you know, not remembering, right? So having a tool that can help you remember stuff that you've seen online and you've interacted with is a fantastic idea. So
Yep.
a lot of the times I assume that there's been times for you, right, where you've thought of a great idea, maybe like super memory or another one of your projects, but you also have multiple great ideas at the same time. How do you decipher between what you want to actually work on or just save for later?
That's actually one of the things I'm really bad at, I would say, because I try to do everything all at once, and that leads to burnout, that leads to me not able to finish my projects. So that's why my approach to it is a little bit different. I make the smallest, the minimum viable version of that project and I just ship it. I just show it to the world. And if people like it a lot, like if it blows up my minimum viable version, then I'll definitely work on it. And that's what happened with Super Memory. But if I put something and there's not that many people interested about it, then I'll not talk about it. Then I'll not, I'll not show it to the world. And that's how I do things right now. And like honestly, I think that's the best way because I do not think there's any way for you to find out if an idea is good or bad without actually shipping it.
Yeah, and I think that's actually great advice because I know from personal experience projects that I'm like, okay, I have this idea. I'm just going to jump into it completely, work on the full version, plan out a bunch of things. Sam and I actually have a friend who's like that a lot. We'll start a big project, right? Hype it up a lot and then never really get to finish it. But if you just start with a little MVP, a little thing to test the market, test if people are interested, right? Or just get a first version out. I feel like that can build a lot of hype, and I think that's a great advice right there for anyone struggling with that problem.
Yep.
So, uh, super memory. What's your vision, like your overall vision for super memory, right? Not like what's coming in the next version, but what's coming like really in the future of super memory.
My overall vision with Super Memory is contributing like one, integrating into so many platforms that it's a no-brainer to have that as your second brain. And I mean second brain in its purest of terms. Like you can only build a Jarvis if the Jarvis knows about you, right? Iron Man can say that, hey, call Tara or some other person because Jarvis already knows who that person is and everything about him, about both the person and everything, all the interests and Iron Man himself. So the final goal will be an assistant that is truly made for you in the way that you consume the internet. Um, that is your second brain. And like I don't like calling it an assistant because then it feels like an outside personality. That's why I like to call it a second brain instead, because then it's like it's helping you make better things. It's helping. Imagine if I would just, it just knows all the documentation that I've read, and then instead of me having to go back and through that documentation, having to go back and through that code, it would already know that okay, this is where you're stuck at and this is how to fix it. And that's the final goal.
Yeah, and do you have any envisions or you have any interest in making it into like a physical product that you can bring around with you?
Um, I might not make my own physical product, but I know that there are a lot of people who are trying to make platforms out of their hardware devices, and I really think that me jumping into that market would deviate me to like from reaching my goal quickly. So I will integrate into like the physical world whenever I can, and I want to do that as soon as possible, but I want to do what I'm good at first. So I'm good at building and shipping web apps and mobile apps, and that's what I'll do. I'll ship that first. And um, like for example, Tab will release, and I'm sure Tab will have like an API or something that I can plug into. So that's what I'll do.
All right, and I think I mean, you've shared a lot of info about all the projects you're working on. I hope this has been really inspiring for a lot of people. Before we start to end off the episode, do you have any final advice to people trying to start down a path just like you?
My only advice has always been be genuine, ship a lot, be genuinely curious, make as many things as you can, and while making it, share your journey to the world. Show people what you're working on. And that is that is literally all you need to do. And people overcomplicate it a lot. People give up along the way. But if you just keep doing that, you will definitely be fine.
All right. Well, I think that is also, again, fantastic advice. And before we end it off, is there anything else you want to add or anything to say?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for coming on the podcast. And we'll see you all back here tomorrow. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.